Arthur Conan Doyle, The Return of Sherlock Holmes. The Adventure of the Priory School, Part 3. The young man continued working and did not look at us. I saw Holmes looking quickly around at the tools and wood on the floor. Suddenly we heard steps behind us. It was the landlord. His heavy eyebrows were low over his angry eyes, and his face was full of rage. He held a short stick with a metal head in his hand and came toward us in a threatening way. I was glad that I had my revolver in my pocket. "You infernal spies!" the man shouted. "What are you doing there?" "Well, Mr. Reuben Hayes," said Holmes calmly, "it almost seems as if you are afraid that we may discover something." The man controlled himself with effort, and his hard face changed into a false smile, which looked even more dangerous. "You can look at whatever you like in my smithy," he said, "but listen, I do not like people walking around my place without permission. So the sooner you pay and leave, the better for me." "All right, Mr. Hayes, no harm meant," said Holmes. "We were only looking at your horses, but I think I will walk after all. It is not far, I believe. Not more than 2 miles to the Hall gates. Take the road to the left." He watched us angrily until we left his place. We did not go far along the road because Holmes stopped as soon as we were out of the landlord's sight. "We were very close to something at that inn," he said, "and now, with every step away from it, I feel we are getting farther from the truth. No, I cannot leave it." "I am sure," I said, "that this Reuben Hayes knows everything. I have never seen a more obvious criminal." "Oh, so that is your opinion. There are the horses, and there is the smithy. Yes, it is a very interesting place, this Fighting Cock. I think we should look at it again, but quietly." Behind us was a long hillside with gray stones. We left the road and began to climb the hill. As I looked toward Holderness Hall, I saw a cyclist riding quickly along. "Get down, Watson," cried Holmes, pulling me down. We had just hidden when the man rode past us. In the dust, I saw his pale, frightened face. His mouth was open, and his eyes looked wild. It was like a strange version of the neat James Wilder we had seen the night before. "The Duke's secretary!" cried Holmes. "Come, Watson, let us see what he does." We moved quickly over the rocks until we reached a place where we could see the front of the inn. Wilder's bicycle was standing against the wall. No one was moving, and we could see no faces at the windows. Slowly, it grew darker as the sun went down behind the towers of Holderness Hall. Then, in the darkness, we saw 2 lights in the stable yard of the inn. Soon after, we heard the sound of a horse and wheels as a small carriage came out and raced away quickly toward Chesterfield. "What do you think about that, Watson?" Holmes whispered. "It looks like someone is escaping. 1 man in a small carriage as far as I could see. Well, it was not Mr. James Wilder, because there he is at the door." A red square of light appeared in the darkness. In the middle of it stood the black shape of the secretary. He leaned forward, looking into the night. It was clear that he was waiting for someone. Then we heard steps on the road. For a moment, another person appeared in the light. The door closed, and everything was dark again. 5 minutes later, a lamp was lit in a room on the first floor. "It seems that the Fighting Cock has a very unusual kind of business," said Holmes. "The bar is on the other side." "Yes, these must be private visitors. Now, what is Mr. James Wilder doing in that place at this hour? And who is the person meeting him there? Come, Watson, we must take a risk and look more closely." We quietly went down to the road and crossed to the inn door. The bicycle was still there. Holmes lit a match and held it near the back wheel. I heard him laugh softly when the light showed a patched Dunlop tire. Above us was the lit window. I must look through that window, Watson. If you bend down and support yourself against the wall, I think I can climb up." A moment later, his feet were on my shoulders. But he came down almost immediately. "Come, my friend," he said. "We have worked enough for today. I think we have learned all we can. It is a long walk back to the school, and we should start now." He spoke very little during our long walk across the moor. When we reached the school, he did not go inside, but continued to Mackleton Station to send some telegrams. Late that night, I heard him speaking kindly to Dr. Huxtable, who was very upset by the death of his teacher. Even later, Holmes came into my room, as active and energetic as in the morning. "All is going well, my friend," he said. "I promise that before tomorrow evening, we will solve the mystery." At 11 o'clock the next morning, Holmes and I walked up the famous Yew Avenue to Holderness Hall. We were taken through the large entrance and into the Duke's study. There we found Mr. James Wilder. He looked polite and calm, but I could still see fear in his eyes and in his nervous face from the night before. "You have come to see His Grace? I am sorry, but the Duke is not well. He has been very upset by the terrible news. We received a telegram from Dr. Huxtable yesterday afternoon telling us about your discovery." "I must see the Duke, Mr. Wilder." "But he is in his room." "Then I will go to his room." "I believe he is in bed." "I will see him there." Holmes's cold and firm manner showed the secretary that it was useless to argue with him. "Very good, Mr. Holmes. I will tell him that you are here." After half an hour, the great nobleman came in. His face looked even more pale than before. His shoulders were bent, and he seemed older than the day before. He greeted us politely and sat at his desk, his red beard lying on the table. "Well, Mr. Holmes?" he said. But Holmes was looking at the secretary, who stood beside the Duke. "I think, Your Grace, that I could speak more freely if Mr. Wilder were not here." The man turned a little pale and gave Holmes an angry look. "If Your Grace wishes—" Yes, you should go. Now, Mr. Holmes, what do you have to say?" Holmes waited until the secretary had left and the door was closed. "The truth is, Your Grace," he said, "that Dr. Watson and I were told by Dr. Huxtable that a reward has been offered in this case. I would like to hear this confirmed by you." "Of course, Mr. Holmes. It is £5,000 for anyone who tells you where your son is?" "That is correct." "And another 1,000 for the person who can name those who are holding him?" "That is correct." "This includes not only the people who took him, but also anyone helping to keep him hidden?" Yes, said the Duke impatiently. "If you do your work well, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, you will be paid well." Holmes rubbed his thin hands together in a way that surprised me, because I knew he usually did not care much about money. "I believe I see your checkbook on the table," he said. "Please write me a check for £6,000. It would be better if you make it crossed. The Capital and Counties Bank, Oxford Street branch, is my bank." The Duke sat very straight and looked at Holmes with a cold face. "Is this a joke, Mr. Holmes? This is not something to joke about." "Not at all, Your Grace. I have never been more serious." "Then what do you mean?" "I mean that I have earned the reward. I know where your son is, and I know at least some of the people who are holding him." The Duke's face became even whiter, and his red beard stood out strongly. "Where is he?" he asked. "He is, or was last night, at the Fighting Cock Inn, about 2 miles from your park." The Duke fell back in his chair. "And who do you accuse?" Holmes gave a shocking answer. He stepped forward and touched the Duke on the shoulder. "I accuse you," he said. "And now, Your Grace, I would like that check." I will never forget how the Duke looked as he jumped up and moved his hands like a man falling into a deep hole. Then, with great effort, he controlled himself, sat down, and covered his face with his hands. He did not speak for several minutes. "How much do you know?" he asked at last, without looking up. "I saw you together last night. Does anyone else know, except your friend?" "I have told no one." The Duke took a pen in his shaking hand and opened his checkbook. "I will keep my promise, Mr. Holmes. I will write your check, even though the information you have is very unpleasant for me. When I first made the offer, I did not expect things to turn out like this. But you and your friend are discreet men, Mr. Holmes. I do not quite understand, Your Grace. I will speak clearly, Mr. Holmes. If only you two know about this, there is no reason for it to become public. I believe £12,000 is what I owe you, is it not?" But Holmes smiled and shook his head. "I am afraid, Your Grace, that it is not so simple. We must also consider the death of the schoolmaster." "But James knew nothing about that. You cannot blame him. It was the work of that violent man whom he unfortunately employed." "I must say, Your Grace, that when a man begins a crime, he is responsible for any other crime that comes from it. Morally, Mr. Holmes, you are right, but not in the eyes of the law. A man cannot be punished for a murder he did not see, and which he hates as much as you do. The moment he heard about it, he confessed everything to me. He was full of horror and regret. He immediately broke all connection with the murderer. Oh, Mr. Holmes, you must save him. You must save him. I tell you, you must save him." The Duke stopped trying to control himself. He walked around the room, his face twisted with emotion, his hands shaking in the air. At last he controlled himself again and sat down at his desk. "I thank you for coming to me before telling anyone else," he said. "At least, we can now discuss how to reduce this terrible scandal." "Exactly, Holmes. I think this can only be done if we are completely honest with each other. I am ready to help you as much as I can, but I must understand everything clearly. I understand that you are speaking about Mr. James Wilder, and that he is not the murderer." "No, the murderer has escaped." Sherlock Holmes smiled slightly. "Your Grace may not know my reputation, or you would not think it is so easy to escape me. Mr. Reuben Hayes was arrested in Chesterfield at 11 o'clock last night because of my information. I received a telegram from the head of the local police before I left the school this morning." The Duke leaned back in his chair and stared at my friend in great surprise. "You seem to have almost superhuman powers," he said. "So Reuben Hayes has been arrested. I am glad to hear that, if it does not harm James." "Your secretary?" "No, sir. My son." Now it was Holmes who looked surprised. "I must say this is completely new to me, Your Grace. Please explain more clearly." "I will hide nothing. I agree with you that complete honesty, however painful, is the best way in this terrible situation, caused by James's foolishness and jealousy. When I was a young man, Mr. Holmes, I loved a woman very deeply. I asked her to marry me, but she refused because she thought it might damage my career. If she had lived, I would never have married anyone else. She died and left one child. For her sake, I loved and cared for that child. I could not tell the world that he was my son, but I gave him the best education. When he grew up, I kept him close to me. He discovered my secret and used it to control me because he knew he could cause a scandal, which I feared very much. His presence was one reason for the problems in my marriage. Most of all, he hated my younger son, my true heir, from the beginning. You may ask why I kept James with me. It was because he looked like his mother, and for her sake, I could forgive everything. He reminded me of her in many ways. I could not send him away. but I was afraid he might harm Arthur, that is, Lord Saltire. So I sent Arthur to Dr. Huxtable's school for safety. James became connected with this man Hayes because Hayes was my tenant, and James acted as his agent. The man was dishonest from the start, but somehow James became friendly with him. He always liked bad company. When James decided to kidnap Lord Saltire, he used Hayes to help him. You remember that I wrote to Arthur on the last day. James opened the letter and added a note, asking Arthur to meet him in a small wood called the Ragged Shaw, near the school. He used the Duchess's name to trick the boy into coming. That evening, James went there by bicycle. I am telling you what he confessed to me. He told Arthur that his mother wanted to see him and was waiting on the moor. He said that if Arthur came back to the wood at midnight, he would find a man with a horse to take him to her. Poor Arthur believed him. He came at the time and found Hayes with a horse. Arthur got on, and they went away together. It seems, though James only learned this yesterday, that they were followed. Hayes hit the man who followed them with a stick, and the man died from the injury. Hayes took Arthur to his inn, the Fighting Cock, where he was kept in an upstairs room, watched by Mrs. Hayes. She is a kind woman, but completely controlled by her cruel husband. Well, Mr. Holmes, that was the situation when I first saw you 2 days ago. I knew no more about the truth than you did. You will ask what James's reason was for doing such a thing. I answer that his hatred for my heir was partly irrational and extreme. He believed that he himself should be the heir to all my property, and he strongly hated the laws that made this impossible. At the same time, he also had a clear purpose. He wanted me to change the inheritance rules, and he believed that I had the power to do so. He planned to make a deal with me, to return Arthur if I agreed to change the rules, so that I could leave the estate to him in my will. He knew that I would never willingly go to the police against him. I believe he would have made this offer, but he did not have time, because events moved too quickly. What destroyed his plan was your discovery of the dead body of this man Heidegger. James was filled with horror when he heard the news. We received the telegram yesterday while we were sitting in this room. He was so upset and shaken that my suspicions, which I had already had, became certain, and I accused him. He then confessed everything. After that, he begged me to keep his secret for 3 more days, to give his partner a chance to escape. I agreed, as I have always agreed, to his requests, and James immediately went to the Fighting Cock to warn Hayes and help him escape. I could not go there during the day without causing attention, but as soon as it was dark, I went to see my dear Arthur. I found him safe, but very shocked by what he had seen. Because of my promise, and against my own wishes, I agreed to leave him there for 3 days with Mrs. Hayes. It was clear that I could not tell the police where he was without also telling them who the murderer was. And I did not see how the murderer could be punished without destroying my unfortunate James. You asked for honesty, Mr. Holmes, and I have told you everything clearly, without hiding anything. Now I ask you to be equally honest with me. I will, said Holmes. First, Your Grace, I must tell you that you have put yourself in a very serious position in the eyes of the law. You have allowed a crime to go unpunished, and you have helped a murderer escape. I cannot doubt that any money James Wilder took to help his partner escape came from you. The Duke nodded. This is indeed very serious. But even more serious, in my opinion, is how you have treated your younger son. You have left him in that place for 3 days. Under solemn promises. What value do promises have with people like these? You have no guarantee that he will not be taken away again. To protect your guilty older son, you have put your innocent younger son in real and unnecessary danger. That was a very wrong decision. The proud Duke of Holderness was not used to being spoken to like this in his own house. His face became red, but he said nothing, because he knew it was true. "I will help you, but only on one condition. You must ring for a servant and allow me to give orders." Without speaking, the Duke rang the bell. A servant came in. "You will be happy to hear," said Holmes, "that your young master has been found. It is the Duke's wish that a carriage goes immediately to the Fighting Cock Inn to bring Lord Saltire home." When the happy servant had left, Holmes continued, "Now that we have secured the future, we can be more gentle about the past. I am not an official officer, and as long as justice is done, there is no need for me to tell everything I know. About Hayes, I will say nothing. He will be hanged, and I will not try to save him. What he may say, I cannot know. But I believe your Grace can make him understand that it is better for him to stay silent. From the police point of view, he kidnapped the boy for money. If they do not discover more, I see no reason to tell them. However, I must warn your Grace that keeping Mr. James Wilder in your house will only bring more trouble. I understand that, Mr. Holmes. It is already decided that he will leave me forever and go to Australia to make a new life. In that case, your Grace, since you have said that your unhappy marriage was caused by him, I suggest that you try to repair your relationship with the Duchess and continue your life together." "I have already done that, Mr. Holmes. I wrote to the Duchess this morning." "In that case," said Holmes, standing up, "I think that my friend and I can congratulate ourselves on several very good results from our visit to the North. There is one more small question I would like to ask. This man Hayes put special shoes on his horses to make tracks like cows. Did he learn this clever trick from Mr. Wilder?" The Duke stood thinking for a moment with a very surprised look on his face. Then he opened a door and led us into a large room that looked like a museum. He brought us to a glass case in the corner and pointed to a sign. "These shoes," it said, "were found in the moat of Holderness Hall. They are made for horses, but the bottom is shaped like a split hoof, so they leave tracks like cows and confuse anyone following them. They are believed to have belonged to some of the attacking barons of Holderness in the Middle Ages." Holmes opened the case. He touched the shoe with his finger, and a thin layer of fresh mud came off onto his skin. "Thank you," he said as he closed the case. "This is the second most interesting thing I have seen in the North." "And the first?" Holmes folded the check and carefully put it into his notebook. "I am a poor man," he said as he touched it with satisfaction and put it safely into his inner pocket.